Daryl and Patty are in their 50s. They got 500,000 in a 401k, 100,000 in a checking account, and they're wanting to know if they can retire. All right, you ready? This is literally a real world example is what we're using here. So let's dive into this. Now, when I say a real world example, we're going to change the names to protect the innocent, if you will, or maybe the guilty. But basically, we got Daryl, who's 57, and Patty, who's 59. We have them both living until they're 90. All right. We got them living in North Carolina because we want them to have to pay state income tax on any income they have. We're going to go to net worth. They got $100,000 in a checking account. What they did in this regard is that they said, we are going to sell. They sold their house. We'll say $200,000. They took $100,000, bought an RV, and $100,000 they're planting into a checking account. All right, now the goal is they want to use this money in the future in which to buy a house probably 5, 6, 7 years from now. They can't afford you can't buy a house for $100,000. They don't need anything fancy. We went into this, so just don't sweat it. Now in the software, I'm going to show them having a property for $300,000 just because I want to show you. Just having a property, it's a dead asset. It means nothing in the software because it doesn't do anything from a cash flow perspective. So even though they have a property, it's irrelevant. I just cannot stress that enough. The only thing a property could do is actually be a liability because of property taxes and homeowners insurance. But in this stage, we're just going to keep it there for giggles. Daryl's got 500. We got Julie. All right, so I haven't changed the name here. So let me just change it to Julie. We got Daryl's got 500,000 in his IRA. It's actually a 401k. Let's make it a 401k. There we go. All right, so we got 500. He's got 500,000, and I think what does he got here? Hold on just a second. We'll make it the exact same fund he has. I don't think it's VTF. I think it's VTI. I think he's got VTTWX. Okay, so let's delete this. VTTWX. All right, and he's got 20,000 shares. We'll just say 20,000 shares. All right, there we go. Yeah, good. All right, so that's it, man. That's what they got. 100,000 checking, 500,000 401k. They had no expenditures on housing other than. In this case, they're going to have to rent a piece of land in which to park their RV on, but that's pretty much it. Pretty good health. They don't smoke, they don't drink, the whole thing. Parents are self-sufficient. The kids are self-sufficient. They're just ready to rock and roll. Daryl's like me. He's almost a dropout of high school. Went in the Army for a couple of years. He went to Fort Jackson. I went to Fort Benning. Did basically some work. Got laid off. Found another job. Now Daryl's got a pension. We're not going to throw that in here. His pension is $24,000 a year. Roughly, so $2,000 a month. We're not going to use that. All right, so goals. We got healthcare cost. Now we have $10,000 a year, basically $11,000 a year. It's basically $900 a month for healthcare before Medicare kicks in. All right, so this is something we don't know. We don't know what it's going to be. In this case, we do know with Daryl. What it's going to be. So we're using this number pretty much right there. So we're just going to go ahead and use that. But that's $11,000 a year, man. It ain't cheap, all right? And it's being inflated at 5.5% a year. I always delete long-term care costs. The reason for that is I always think you should self-insure if you have that. If you have a long-term care need, you should self-insure without question. Pay out of pocket. But the issue is the vast majority of us aren't going to have much expenditures in long-term care. So to insure against that, it seems to be a significant expense for something that's not likely to happen. Now, again, if it's a low expense for something that's not likely to happen, i.e. life insurance, homeowners insurance, that's fine. Long-term care is a significant expense for something that's not likely to happen. It's just not. Oh, but a lot of people go to a long-term care facility. Yeah, but they don't spend much money. They just don't. 48% of the population doesn't even go to long-term nursing home or anything like that. Of the 52%, the vast majority spend less than, I think it's like $30,000 out of pocket. You do have some outliers, but the outliers just not worth the $5,000, $6,000 a year cost for long-term care to cover that you could be an outlier. And even the outliers, we're talking $200,000 or $300,000. It's just always better to self-insure for the most part. Now, I have long-term care. I don't want to get into this now, but I do. So I'm not a hypocrite. I'm just saying there are scenarios where it makes sense to get it. All right, so let's go to income that have no salary, nothing. We got a box for Roth conversions. We got Social Security at 67. Daryl's going to get Social Security, $2,900 a month. At 67, old Patty will get her Social Security at $887 a month. Now, what's going to happen, of course, is once Daryl files, Patty will not get $887. Patty will get half of this right here. Okay, once Daryl files, as a spouse, you cannot get the spousal benefit until the other spouse files. Unlike if you're divorcee, you don't have to wait for the other person to file, which is crazy, but be that as it may. All right, so their goals. This is the expenses right here. So we're going to dive in this a little bit deeper. All right, so their total expenses are $3,000 a month. They just don't spend that much, man. All right. So when we look at total expenses at $3,000 a month, they can't afford that. I'm just telling you, there's tons of people who do. I don't know why everyone thinks you need 8,000 billion. It's the weirdest thing to me. So let's go to retirement cash flows. I have no idea what this looks like. Let's see. When I did for Daryl, he's fine. I mean, because again, he has that pension. All right, so we got 96% probability of success, leaving their 2 kids $500,000, and that's in today's dollars. If we do inflated dollars, probably like 1.1 million or something like that, or 900,000. Let's see. If we inflate it, it's $1 million. So you can see in today's dollars, is after inflation, it's all the same money, but that means they're living large as possible. For 35 years in retirement, and they're still leaving their kids $500,000 in today's dollars. We go to confidence. You can see their liquid net worth are going down. All right, they're going down until right here, which is when they take Social Security, and then it starts going back up. All right, now here's the best thing. We go to income. 75% of their income is stable. All right, which means they're not relying on the market to provide. In fact, you can see right here, once they hit retirement, 100% of their income is stable from Social Security. So Social Security is a big deal. That's all there is to it. So I like to see that. All right, so let's go to stress test. The biggest concern is if the market were to fall in the first few years, would that do? I mean, you can see right here, this orange is taking it from their accounts, their investments. And you can see right here, if the markets were to fall, that right there. So let me just go back real quick. Where were we? Analysis. Income. All right. So the purple is Social Security. So once they're on Social Security, they're not running out of money. Before that, though, from 57 to basically 67, full retirement age, the bulk of their income is still, if not all of it, is coming from their portfolio. So you got to be careful of a portfolio decline. All right. So I hope that makes sense. Once they're on Social Security, it's all from their income's all from Social Security. So let's go to cash flows. I want to show you what their expenditures are. So we can see expenses. $50,000 a year. So even though it's $3,000 a month in discretionary expenses, well, they still got other expenses. In this case, we got healthcare is a big one right there. Now, this living expense is all encompassing, is including property tax, the cost to hook up their RV, the whole thing. Healthcare, we already talked about that. It's $1,000 a month, roughly, man. That's not cheap. So they're totally spending $50,000 a year. And they're also going to have some taxes. Why are they going to have taxes? Well, because we're going to see where the money is coming from. They have no income for the first 9 years, 10. I mean, and then tiny amount of money just when Patty's on Social Security for the first 10. And so they have 40,000, 48, 57, 56. All these net flows are coming from their IRA, is Daryl's IRA. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, so we go ending balance by account. So initially they're tapped into the taxable accounts. And we'll go into this a little bit. And then they're going to tap into the 401k. And we go to withdrawals from accounts. You can see, so remember, they had negative cash flows. They got negative cash flows. And then there is no negative cash flows because at that point, Daryl's on Social Security. Let's see, we go to additions to accounts. So here you can see the RMDs are kicking in. And they're actually adding money to the portfolio because Social Security is covering all the income that they need. But however, what does the portfolio look like before Social Security kicks in? Well, it drops. Their total money is only worth $350,000 come 2029 before Social Security kicks in. So it went from basically 600,000 to 350. That could be scary. So we go up there as a stress test, and look at this. Make sure you click on this action item. If we have an 80% market decline, their baseline, which is 95.3 probability of success, drops to 3.6 if we have an 80% market decline. Not likely, but if you were, if you go to 50% one, a little bit more normal, if you will, once in a generation decline, excuse me. We already hit, yeah. Then they're still in a world of hurt. So that first couple of years, they got to make sure that the markets don't kill them. Taxes go up by 80%. It's not going to have a big deal because once they're on Social Security, there is no tax. Social Security drops by 20%. That could affect them greatly. It goes from 95 to 73% if Social Security drops. So you can see all that. And then you just hit this combined. If all these things combine, healthcare goes up by 60%, taxes go up by 80%, equity markets crash by 50%, and Social Security is reduced by 20%, then they're running out of money. It's just, they're not running out of money, but they are running out of liquid assets. They still have Social Security, but that's where that 0% comes in. All right, hope that makes sense. So let's go back to cash flow. They're just not running out of money here. And what we're going to do, let's see. Okay, good. Let's go to, say, we got retirement healthcare is going to be Medicare Part B, Part D, Medigap. Let me just show you how we're getting healthcare expenses here. And we're going to go to expenses. Healthcare cost. So what's going to go to Daryl's? This is Medicare Part B, Medicare Part D. All other is going to include their Medigap, and then on top of that, copays and whatnot. Now, the one cost we don't have is any dental implants or anything like that, but that would be an expense I'd have to pay for out of pocket. Just keep that in mind. And the same things with Patty, the exact same thing here. So if you move my big mug, hold on a second, move my big mug out of the way. We go back to expenses. And what you'll see here from a tax, let me show you, from a tax payment, they're paying $8,000, nothing. Then once they, and not much. They're not really much of a tax until I think we had Patty dying first. Then when Daryl's a widow, you can see his taxes double, or widower, from $6,000 to $12,000, and yet his income goes from $140,000 to $107,000. That's the widow's tax trap, or in this case, widower is big time. So we're gonna go up here, use my man RC totals. They're gonna pay $132,000 of tax. All right. So I hope all that makes sense. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So let's go to analysis, retirement analysis, and let's say they have actually higher expenses for healthcare before. Let's see, not healthcare, retirement monthly expense. So let's say they have $4,000 instead of $3,000 months. Is what I'm trying to say. All right, so we're going to go to 4,000 retirement monthly expenses as opposed to 3,000, and what does that do there? And let's look at current plan, or the proposed plan, and it drops it to 29%. So that difference between 3,000 and 4,000, that's a 33% bump. If they had 4,000 a month for the rest of their life, there's going to be a challenge for sure. So, but they're not going to. We've already talked about this. How about 3,500? We go here. And it goes to what's 80%. So basically, they have a nice little threshold between $3,000 and $3,500 a month for the rest of their life, which does not include income tax or healthcare and all that. And they're sent pretty. Now, again, that's 80% is fine. It really is. I got no qualm with that at all. And don't forget, we go to investments, we're only using a 5.3% rate of return. That's it. That's nothing fancy. On a basically a Wellington type portfolio, we're using a 5.3% rate of return. We're certainly not swinging for the fences here. So let's go back to retirement. And that makes sense, man. I mean, that's not a bad deal. So, all right, now let's go. I want to show you guys something. We're going to go to tax. Could they do something a little bit differently? And here's the current plan. You can see the taxes, pretty good tax, not much. I mean, in terms of relative tax dollars, it's not much. Then you got nothing that starts going up, and then you got the big widow's jump. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you what happens if they start taking money out of the 401k before their before their taxable accounts, and we're going to go here, tax deferred, and then we're going to. So what's happening here is we're going to tax deferred, and let's see what that looks like. So they're not touching their bank account until the 401k and IRA are exhausted. Hope that makes sense. So let's go back to retirement. Let's see what it looks like on a proposed plan. Let's make this back to $3,000. Everything else should be the same. And hit refresh. It's going to be up to, what's that, 95%? Yeah. So so they're not running out of money in this regard. So again, $3,000 a month. Now what we do is go to cash flows. Will that change much from the tax perspective? And tax payment here is go to proposed plan. And you can see they're going to be paying a little bit more in taxes on the front end, but it won't be, it's just, it's not even that much different. It's actually hardly any difference at all. let's just go to RC totals. Yeah, I can't remember. Let's see, 163 versus, was it 153 or something like that? Let's take a look. Hold on just a second. Yeah, 132. So actually, that's interesting. So they pay, if they take money out of their 401k before they touch their bank account, they're actually going to pay 30,000 more in taxes. That's interesting. Let's go to net worth. Their net worth is 1.9 million if they take the money out of the bank account before the 401k. If they take it from the 401k first, let's take a look at net worth. It's going to be 1.9 million. So it's basically a wash in that regard. It doesn't matter. Now, what if they do Roth conversions? So that's what we want to do next. So let's hit tax, distributions, and we'll just have them convert until, let's say the 22% tax bracket. Let's do 12. See what that looks like. 12% tax bracket. There it goes. Probably, let's take a look. Let's see if it does much. In this case, they're going to convert 93, 68,000, 45,000, 45, and 11,000. And then their tax deferred account balance will be zeroed out by the time Daryl is 62 years old. All right, that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, but I want to do though, if they're going to do those conversions, I think what I want to do is not take the tax deferred money out. Let's just do standard. All right, so let's take a look here. So in this case, we're going to pull the money from the cash account while we're doing the Roth conversions. And let's see what that looks like. And then once the cash account is exhausted, we got to pull the money from the cash account and do the Roth conversion at the same time. About the same. Doesn't really change a whole lot. 96% with about $500,000 in liquid net worth. Let's go to cash flows, and we're going to go to taxes. Yeah, well, they pay a whole lot less in tax. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. So watch this. Look at that. They pay no more taxes ever again. I just love that. I do. I like it. They're paying a whole lot less in tax. They're paying less than half as much in taxes. They'll never pay tax again. And they're going to leave roughly the same amount of money to the kids, but all that's tax free, and they have a higher probability of success. That's a strategy right there, man. I just want to try something else real quick. Hold on just a second. We're going to go down here, and we want to take it from that can't be better. No way that's going to be better. All right, so let's go to retirement. And so what we're doing is we're taking the money from, did I do that enough? Maybe I didn't. Hold on just a second. I don't know if I let that sink in. So we're taking the money from the 401k on top, and we're not touching the tax. Okay, good. And we're not touching the cash money component, if you will. That just looks pretty good to me, man. Yeah, look at that. All right, that's fantastic. All right. So anyway, so there's, there's many different ways to skin this cat, but let's just go real quick to tax. We're going to go with the proposed plan. Let's go to 1040, and let's go 10 years from now. Watch this. They got $53,000 of Social Security and nothing from a tax perspective. Nothing at all. It's crazy. Go to 2040. They got $84,000 of Social Security, a little bit of taxable income, simply because of they've been spending. They've been not spending enough. They're saving. They're saving. No taxes at all. It's freaking awesome. I love it. I love it. 84,000 Social Security, only 6,000 subject to taxation. They got a little bit of taxable interest and dividends, and just no taxes. Crazy. All right. Lastly, let's just, instead of doing this, let's go back to distributions. Instead of filling up the 12% tax bracket, let's just go back to here and say what we're going to do instead is just do 40,000 a year Roth conversion. So we're going to go to income, Roth conversions. We're going to stretch out a little bit longer. So instead of doing getting all converted in one fell swoop, I think it's a 401k. Yeah. We're going to do it over the course of we're going to stretch out some. Let's see what this looks like here. Yeah, so we're stretching out some, and then we're not that much more though. So bear with me just a second. cash flows. I'm using Daniel Coolbert. That's his YouTube channel. Go to Daniel Coolbert, and it doesn't work as well as I thought, to be honest with you. I still probably want to stretch this out for, instead of 40,000 here, I still probably want to stretch that out for, say, to right about here. It's at 2,000. So let's do it over 10 years. So let's go to profile. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do, instead of 40,000, we're going to do 30,000 to pay less taxes on our front end. By the time we take Social Security, we'll have essentially, my thought process is everything will be in a Roth. There'll be no tax due. Yeah, it's a little bit better. All right, good. I like that. Bear with me just a second. Let's click this guy. Oops, gotta go to cash flows. Yeah, that's probably the way to go right there. It's still not as good as I would have thought. But anyway, that's interesting. I would have thought if you stretched out, it would be a better tax scenario, but it's not quite showing that. All right, let me just try one other thing here. Let me just stretch this out even longer. That actually is hurting us. That's interesting to me. I would have thought that would have been better on a tax perspective. Let's see. So we're doing 20,000 year Roth conversions. And then by the time RMDs kick in, there's no more taxes due because everything's a Roth. That's got to be the better way, right? Let's go to retirement cash flows. And let's see. Yeah, okay. The best way to do it is just to fill up the tax bracket. Just do it all in one fell swoop, the 12% tax bracket. So which means we got to go to distributions. And here we got to fill up the tax bracket with Roth conversions right here, 12%. It'll tell you exactly how much you got to do. You go to details, it'll tell you. You need to do 73. In this case, we got to go back to, actually, I just want to real quick, bear with me just a second. I'm just kind of messing around. Oh, look at that's pretty sweet. Bear with me. That's if we do this in 4 years, essentially. I just wonder what the cash flows are going to be. Bear with me just a second. Yeah. No. All right. So we'll cut this. So the base of the issue is they're not run out of money, and I have a sneaky suspicion many of you guys are like this. There is no pension. We are not discounting the high cost of healthcare until Medicare. They just don't spend that much, but they're spending $50,000 a year. The median household income is $65,000 a year. All right, and I've shown you a million times a Sunday after taxes, 401k contributions, and FICA. That median household income is about $50,000, a little bit less than 50, about $44,000 a year when all said and done, if you factor in 401k contributions. So these guys are spending $50,000 a year. That's a little bit more than the median net income is. It's just that this isn't crazy, man. Like that, no one can afford it. Well, yeah, they can. But you got to know your expenses. In this case, our house is paid. We didn't even use a reverse mortgage. At some point, we could always incorporate a reverse mortgage. Now, they can't because they don't have a house, but they're going to buy one. So, anyway, in this case, they're golden. Lots to do in this regard. Now, we didn't put a new house purchase and all that. I get all that. We could easily do that. But, that's something we could do. If we're going to do that, do we want to do Roth conversions? I don't know. We'd have to dive into all this for sure. But as we sit here today, they're spending $50,000 a year. If their house is paid off, or they're not going to buy a house or something like that, they're going to keep. This, and don't forget, he's already got a pension which they're not using here, so that counts as a wash. So, man, you can retire. We just proved it. Hope this helps. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks now.